All right, today we have a Brown & Sharpe 10x24 universal IDOD grinder. It has a Hardage 5C collet closer on it. This is a live and dead center workhead. Machine has automatic plunge feed as well as longitudinal pick feed. Also has a rapid in and out of the cross slide in the external grinding mode. And it also has a spark out timer for at the end of your grinding cycle to keep the wheel on the part for a better finish. And it has the Accurite digital readout only for the table axis. It's not on the cross slide. So we went through this machine, we cleaned it up, we took all the slides apart and oiled them and stoned them and made sure all the ways are getting oil, which they all are. This is the original factory paint. This is pretty much as far as they went with options, with the swing down ID, with the rapid in and out of the slide, with the plunge feed and the spark out. It's a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up. It's currently wired for 220 volts, 3-phase. Well, right now I have it set in the internal grinding mode. In the internal grinding mode, you're going to be using this motor on top. Your grinding wheel spindle, external spindle is off. Just this spindle is on. And machine would be driven forward at the beginning of your setting this up. And once it comes forward, you switch your switch down here to internal grind, and it will no longer allow this slide to go back and forth. So in your manual mode, you could actually work with this machine by hand. You have a stop here, you can go around it, you can go into your bore, do whatever it is you're going to do. Also, you have a selector switch here that you set actually on external or internal grinding, and through some gearing on the inside of the gearbox, you always turn the hand wheel in the same direction to bring the slide in or out, but you can actually change the direction that this moves. So in other words, right now, when I lift this dead stop up and go around like this, my slide is actually going backwards. This will feed up to its solid stop and stop right here at 0. And when it retracts, it'll go back to your stock removal, but it's going in the rear direction in your internal grinding mode. When we do the video for external grinding, it's going to be different. So this right now is for internal. At this point, you could swivel your workhead to any degree that you wanted to. You could also swivel your wheel head a little bit. You've got a lot of movement in and out to get this where you want it. So the next thing would be to start your workhead. This is variable. You have control here. Again, this is a 5C collet made by Hardage. This also has a 8-inch diameter magnetic chuck that fits on that. This would come off with 4 bolts. You take that off and you mount on your magnetic chuck. So we have the headstock running. You also have a jog button that you could use. And then we have our table. Now the operator has the choice to work this machine by hand, do all your infeeding by hand, or if you wanted, you could start a little grinding cycle. This is feeding now. You have adjustment over here to set how much that pick feed is each time it goes. You can slow your table down here or speed it up. And when you're working with this machine in the internal grinding mode, you have to be aware that you want to come out of your part before you start going back. You don't want to have your quill inside your workpiece and then you start cranking your wheel slide back. That's why in the ID mode, once you switch this switch to ID, internal grinding, it automatically cuts off that function that will even allow this slide to go back. That's a safety. So this is really all you can do. You can feed in by hand, you can move your table by hand, You can move these stops out of your way. You actually have a much finer feed rate here. If you wanted to use go in there real fine and easy. There's a little diamond wheel on there right now in a 1/4 inch little collet on the end of that spindle. This spindle is going to hold a regular Brown & Sharpe grinding quill, and also in this case it has a Brown & Sharpe little collet holder that has little collets that will hold 1/4 inch tooling, which we have in there now. So again, you can start your table going. Whoop. And you can start your feed over here or feed in by hand. You have a fine feed dial here where you can move this dial wherever you want it to change your sizes. Come out of the bore, stop your table, and then you go back. Okay, shut this off, and this will swing up out of the way. When we come back, we're going to do a video on the ID grinding. Alright, so now we've swung the ID attachment up, and I've switched my switch over here from internal grinding to external grinding, and I've changed my gearing here. You always want to remember to do that, to put this back in external, so that when you turn your hand wheel in a counterclockwise direction, it's bringing that slide towards you. You also have a coarse feed here that will do it a lot quicker. So you have a grinding ratio here for external. This is the normal. When you're grinding under power, you want to be on external. You only want to put this thing on coarse when you want to go back and forth a large distance, just so you don't have to sit here turning it and turning it. But it doesn't take that long, no matter how you do it. And then here you have a lever that you see me operating. This has a few functions. It serves as a dead stop. When you want to go around more than once, you have to lower that dead stop so that you can do that. When you lower that, you disable all the functions of the machine, so you always want to remember that you put that back. Below here is a switch to tell it when it's at 0. There's also a switch that tells it when it's at in its home position. So now that we've come out of the internal grinding mode, what this machine has that over other Brown & Sharpe cylindricals is it has this rapid in and out. Now that's a fixed amount of travel that does. Actually, there's a dog on the back. There's a rod there with the limit switch. You can actually limit how far back this will go. Doesn't have to go back that far. If you were doing production and that couple of seconds made a difference, you could shorten that back and forth distance. But with this machine, you bring that forward, and now over here you start your headstock and then your table. And again, your table speed is here. And as soon as I hit this cross feed start, it's going to allow this to start to feed. And again, the amount that this feeds here, you are adjusting with this increment adjustment here. It can go from a couple of tenths to a couple of thousandths. Now, on the back of the hand wheel here, there's several tapped holes to put a fixed stop in, so that it's always going to go to 0. When this comes all the way around and hits this, it's going to read 0 on the top. When it backs up, you could change the amount that it backs up for the same reason, so that you don't have to sit here having it feed in and out like this 100 times before it touches your workpiece. So there is, some thought in the way you set this all up. If you want to retract this or stop your cycle, you hit this button here, and that brings your wheel head back to the start position, your hand wheel back to the start position, and you can send the slide back. Okay, we have it in. We start our feed here. We start the feed. I guess if you hit the retract, it sends the wheel slide back also. That's a good idea. So you notice up here you've got some lights. One tells you that the power is on. This red light here tells you that the slide is in the back. And the amber one tells you that the slide is now in the front. Now you also have another dial here which says traverse cut or plunge cut. So if you want to go to plunge cut or plunge grinding, you have to rotate that to plunge grinding. You don't touch this at this point, and now you bring this forward. Let's see, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Okay. Everything has to be set right. Now when you pull the lever, you come forward, the headstock starts running, and your continuous plunge feed is going. You're not moving the table now. The table is stopped. This is for plunge grinding only. And this will feed around, and you can control the speed of that until our fixed pin comes to the back there and goes up against the dead stop, and this will be at 0. Now any size correction you need to do, you do it with the fine feed setting dial. Now this has started your spark out cycle. You note the green light that comes on the timer. And when the time is up, the work slide moves backwards, the work head shuts off, and the in-feed hand wheel retracts. And we come in again, we feed. Right here I'm taking off about 20 or 30 thousandths of stock removal in this. We get to the 0, our green lamp comes on, our spark out timer starts, and you can set this time at anywhere from 5 seconds like I have it now, all the way up to about 60 seconds. So again, this is a fully automatic cycle in the plunge grinding mode. This is when you got a batch of parts to do, you're all set up, everything is working right, and all you want to do is put somebody on the machine or whatever and run parts between center or through a collet, come down to size, let it kick out, take your part out, load another part, come in, start another cycle. That's fully automatic. You also have a manual and a setup mode. These are when you're going to be using these things to individually start your workhead and individually start your table and individually start your in-feed clutch here. When you're on auto cycle here, everything gets controlled by this lever. You want to make sure all of these are in the off position. Again, you can go over here now and put this back to the traverse cut mode, and when we start this up, we ought to get our table moving. All right, so for those of you who were paying attention, I just had a little glitch. What I wanted to show you was from the plunge cut grinding, we go to traverse grinding, and I went and pulled this in, and it really didn't work right. My table didn't start to move, and this actually jumped out and started to feed. What it turned out to be the problem was this switch added by the last customer for coolant has to be on. If you have this off and try to do, for whatever reason, the longitudinal grinding, you're going to get a situation like that where the wheel jumps out and starts to feed and your table doesn't move anyway. What the actual problem is that somebody shut that off on me. Now, when we start the cycle, we're going to start to feed our table, and this starts to feed right from its nest, right from its home position. I'll show you that again. Just little things you have to know. If you have this switch here, this is not going to work. You're going to say, what am I doing wrong? Well, you got to know you can't have that switch turned on. It's just like the one up there. So now you can control your speed, and it will get down to 0 again, and it'll hit the spark out switch, and your time will start, and it works the same way. So we showed you manually, semi-manual ID grinding, and then we went into the external grinding in the setup and manual modes where we had to use the selector switches to start and stop our headstock and table, and starting our crossfeed by starting with this switch here. Now that's how 90% of the Brown and Sharps out there operate. They only have this. Very few actually have this or are still working today. So there you have it, the Brown and Sharpe with all the bells and whistles. This is a 1024 universal, and you got some hands-on experience about some mistakes you could make. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.